Welcome back. We ended on this PowerPoint slide about culture shock, but now we're moving on to fieldwork techniques. Totally ignore this PowerPoint slide. Don't worry about it. If we had more detail, I'd love to discuss all of this with you, and people are usually interested, but I'm not going to put this on any of the exams, and I'd just like to skip it. So one of the main tools that anthropologists use when in another culture is taking field notes. And it used to be that you'd write these down in these sort of journals a long time ago. This is certainly what Malinowski was doing. He ended up bringing back tons and tons of, hundreds of these totally filled field note journals in order to remember, because it is easy to misremember and forget important descriptions and details of events that you attended. And if you were attending a event for your mini ethnography, which you're not anymore, I don't want you to attend an event during a pandemic. I would also have you take field notes, but you're not going to, so don't worry about it. One thing that I did quite a bit in my research was I took audio recordings, I took photographs, I took video. I recorded with my smartphone and a little microphone that I installed into it, all of my interviews. So that way I would always have that information, and I would always be able to refer back to the interview and really dissect what people were telling me. So after you return from the field, you might think that going to the field for an entire year or 2 years, which is a pretty typical length of time for an anthropologist to be in the field, you might think that takes a long time, but actually taking all those recordings you've done and analyzing them and quantifying them and giving them values and trying to figure out what all this huge jumble of data actually means can take almost as long, if not longer, than the field research itself, especially because you just collect so much data over that point of time, over that amount of time being in the field for so long. And it's sort of hard to organize in your brain. So, analyzing qualitative data for me is especially difficult. Quantitative data is easier to analyze, but it's also pretty time consuming. So you see a little survey data that I did. I collected about 1,200 surveys from different Korean people who were dating, and I asked them, which of these couples holidays have they celebrated? And it turns out that birthdays were the most common, followed by Valentine's Day, Christmas, yearly anniversary, and I sort of turned it into this graph. So this is quantitative data.